once again. I'm Marie Moss, your church nurse. How's your garden growing? This spring, many of us planted a garden, some for the first time ever. Last week, I talked about what God is teaching me from Jeremiah 29:5. This is a passage where God told the Israelites who were taken into slavery, kicking and screaming, to build houses, settle in, plant gardens. So I'm wondering, what are you going to plant in your garden? No, not the garden in your backyard, but in your spiritual journey, in the new reality that we find ourselves. What is God asking us to grow in our new garden? I'm so excited that we are making plans to return to corporate worship again this week. While it is important to take a break, it's time to get back together once again. Those from our congregation who had corona have recovered, and none of them became seriously ill. Thank God. As far as I know, the virus has not spread to anyone else that they were with. Wow. But why didn't it spread? First of all, it was by the grace of God. After all, He's ultimately in control of who does and doesn't contract the disease. And also, those who were sick made some great choices, and we are so thankful for their wise decisions. They did not come to worship last Sunday when they thought they might be sick. They wore face coverings before they even knew they might have the disease, and they practiced social distancing. Thanks for being careful. So what have we learned from this first up-close experience with the virus? First, don't panic. Keep trusting God. Even if you do get COVID, God's got this. Next, there is a reason why everyone is saying to wash your hands, wear a mask, be outside, practice social distancing. It really does work to reduce the spread of the disease. Another thing that I learned is that quarantine is miserable. I want to do everything possible to avoid it. Because the disease can be spread 2 days before the people get symptoms, they can spread the disease before they realize that they have it. Those who need to be quarantined are those who have been in close contact with someone who has COVID-19. But what counts as close contact? This is what CDC says about who should be quarantined. If you were within 6 feet of someone who has COVID-19 for at least 15 minutes. If you had direct physical contact with that person, touched, hugged, kissed, etc. If you provided care at home for someone who is sick with COVID-19 or ate or drank after them, or if they sneezed or coughed or somehow got droplets on you. So if you really do practice social distancing, it is less likely that you will have to be quarantined and ultimately get the disease. Now that those who have been ill or quarantined are being released, how should we relate to them? Actually, they are now the safest people to be with. They have been isolated for 14 days. They have proven that they did not contract the disease. And besides that, they haven't been with anybody else who might give it to them. Those who have had the disease have met the guidelines of 10 days after symptoms began, the cough is getting better, and no fever for 3 days. They no longer have the virus. And besides, they have been apart from everyone else for weeks. We need to welcome them back and thank them for doing the hard work of protecting the rest of us. So did you decide yet what you're going to plant in your garden? One friend of mine says that she's planting hope and fearlessness. Another one said courage and new directions. Well, I'm starting to work up the garden, up the ground in my garden. I'm looking through the seed catalogs, trying to decide what to plant. I likely will plant some of the same things that I had other years, but maybe a different variety. And it may be some of the things that I love the most aren't going to grow in this new garden that I have. Maybe I'll find some new crops that I'll learn to like. I'd love to know what's growing in your garden. After all, it's time to wash our hands and trust Jesus.